12 now. We're talking about life without a car today. Fuel prices on the rise. No sign of petrol or diesel becoming cheaper. It could mean you having to find an alternative way to get around. One potential alternative that keeps you on four wheels, of course, is an electric car. So how do they work? How cheap are they to run? A man who knows all about it, Paul Kuznecovs, who lives in Northampton and owns an electric car. I had a go at your surname, Paul. I'm sorry if I've got it wrong.
It's okay, I'm used to it. Hello.
Now, when did you decide to get an electric car?
You know, I've always been very passionate about new technologies and things like that, yeah? And for the past 3 years, I've been, calculating very hard whether it would make sense to get an electrical vehicle. And only in the last 6 months, it makes sense. And as soon as I saw that, I immediately went for it.
How expensive are they, Paul?
Well, obviously, the cost of the car before the government grant is quite high if you compare it to other cars. Yeah, but you need to look at everything in general, what kind of savings you can achieve. The most cost-effective way at this point of time, I found to take an electrical vehicle through a company.
Right, OK. So do you mind talking us through the costs involved then? How did you come to the point where you decided it was going to be economical to run?
Yeah, OK. Basically, if to take into consideration all tax offsets, VAT, it doesn't count as benefit in kind. The Nissan Leaf costs me around £330 per month.
Is that everything included? Charging up and all that sort of stuff?
Yes. Yeah, everything including recharging, including all the, all the bits and bobs.
Which sounds pretty good, but how many miles can you get out of it at a time?
Well, you can go, in perfect conditions, you can go up to 100 miles, but when it's cold, obviously, it goes a bit down.
Right, OK. And they run off a battery, a bit like a milk float, I guess?
Well, but particularly during cold times, it behaves a little bit funny, but it's okay, I'm used to it now.
And how easy is it to find somewhere to charge your car?
Yeah, first of all, what I found with these electrical vehicles at this point of time, it's purely for moving locally. Yeah.
Right.
For the past 6 months, I've done 8,000 miles. In electricity, it cost me £120. In petrol, it would have cost me, only in petrol, it would have cost me over £2,500 in my conventional car. With regards to the charging, I charge at home. I come in the evening home and plug it in, into a normal socket.
And are there any limitations? Are you restricted on how fast you can go, for instance?
If to be honest with you, when we beat the world record, many electrical cars went in Silverstone, I've done 100 miles per hour on it, on Silverstone.
Goodness me. Yeah.
And, it's a beautiful car. I've compared many electrical vehicles, and Nissan Leaf came on top. I'm not trying to market this model. I'm sure there are better cars of electrical nature, but it's a beautiful car. 5 people can sit in there. It looks exactly the same like any other vehicles. The only difference is that there is no petrol. Every time I pop into the petrol station, I go to buy a can of Coke or a pint of milk.
And what's it like to drive? Do you notice a difference between an electric car and a petrol car in the way it drives?
Absolutely not. A part of it's so quiet. You can't even hear it. So you have to be careful because you have to be aware about pedestrians, cyclists, even pigeons. They don't hear you coming from behind.
You'll have to get a CD of car noises to play very loudly.
Oh, yeah, maybe beeping.
Presumably it's good for the environment as well.
Yes, yeah, well, at the end of the day, you don't, I've done 8,000 miles and I haven't put a drop of petrol. Obviously, there are various arguments about how much electricity or, oil it takes to create the car and all these battery things like that. But I suppose it's good for the environment. There is no these fumes coming out of the pipe at the back.
They were seen as the future. I mean, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I remember going to the motor show in Birmingham and having a look at some of the new cars that were coming out. And it was expected that by this time there would be a lot of us driving electric cars. But it doesn't seem to be the case. Why do you think they haven't taken off quite as well as we thought?
Well, first of all, of course, I think one of the main things, it's not only up to the government to encourage people to drive electrical vehicles. I think we will see more and more of electrical vehicles when we change the driving culture. For example, I have changed mine. Yeah, before I was using the same car for long and short trips. Now I use electric vehicle to move around, and if I have to go far away, I use either conventional car or I use the public transport. We can share a car, we can rent a car. There are so many different things.
I guess with you having an electric car, this is an irrelevant question. Well, I don't know if it is or not, but I mean, we're talking today about whether or not cars will become expensive luxuries in the future. Do you think they will?
No, I think they'll become more like mobile phones, where you pay a flat monthly fee and you drive vehicles around.
Well, that's interesting. How would that work, do you think?
Well, it's all about I think it's to do with the business. You know, when the companies spot a niche, they will, fill it up. And I see that more. For example, when I bought Nissan, contract hire. Sorry, I was the only driver of Nissan Leaf here in Northampton, but I've already seen 2 other Nissan Leaf around.
Oh, right.
So see, it's spreading.
So they are creeping in then. Are they the future? Do you think we'll all be driving them in 20 years' time?
Yes, I think there are quite a lot of other types of vehicles, like run on hydrogen, even on compressed air and things like that. Would you believe it or not? I'm sure they'll make something else. But electric, before I was thinking about, hybrid, how would I go, like long distances? But now I truly believe, it's electrical, 100% electrical vehicles. These are the future. Obviously, infrastructure have to develop, but all it's happening. It's happening now,
Paul, fascinating to talk to you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Paul Kuznecov, who owns an electric car. Well, the government aimed to have 1.7 million electric cars on the road by 2020. Daventry hopes to install an electric car charge point at one of their car parks in the town using a government grant. Be interested to know how many existing charge points there are in the county. Have you seen any while you've been driving around? 01604234455. And while we're talking about that, what would life be like for you without the car? With the petrol due to be at record prices over Easter, we'll talk to the AA about why they think that shortly. It will become a point where the car does become an expensive luxury. You can't afford to run it on a daily basis. What would life be like for you if you didn't have your car? 01604234455 or send me a text. Text the word North, a space, and then your message to 810.